As someone who loves history, I often make the assumption that everybody understands the importance of history. Even those who find it boring and pretentious, I often assume, also recognize that history is important. But this is not the case. There are many who see history as more of an obstacle to present and future goals, but it is my belief that this crowd is more so running from history rather than rejecting its importance. Similar to those who reject all of history are those who pick and choose which parts of history they will recognize and which parts they'll reject. This is likely the majority of people, and needless to say, they solely recognize the history that supports their present-day narratives. To a certain extent, this behavior is understandable because history is littered with atrocities and many unflattering events that could cause problems for the aspirations of modern-day people. But this doesn't make this behavior logical or moral. It is my belief that Lattos should embrace all of their history, no matter what it reveals. This isn't to say that we should be proud of all of our history or even have positive opinions about it, but rather it's to say that we should recognize our entire history, understand it, and be able to respond to any questions concerning it. Most of you may be thinking that I'm referring to some of the dark parts of Latto history, such as the Lattos who owned slaves and practiced YT supremacy, but you would be mistaken. These are dark spots that we must recognize for sure, but these are the easy cases to answer for, as they can be attributed to individual actors and/or people who grew up indoctrinated in racist worldviews. What I am referring to is not the history of events or people, which seems to be the focus of everyone interested in Latto history, but rather something that is equally important and rarely studied, and that is the history of the word mulatto. Not the etymology, but the meaning of the word. And to quote the great philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein, the meaning of a word is its use in a language. I would argue that the part of history that scares Lattos the most is how the word mulatto was applied, or rather, who it was applied to. I've witnessed outsiders bring up historical instances where Latto was applied in a manner contrary to today's view of Latto, and the response was, in the worst case, to insult the person, or in the best case, give a weak response and quickly change the subject. There is very little hunger within the online Latto space to investigate the meaning of the word mulatto and how it has evolved over time. The obvious reason being is that it would shatter the modern interpretation of Latto being 50-50 to 60-40% African European. On this, history begs to differ. But as I said earlier, we should not run from any part of our history. We should not lie to ourselves by omission. The starting place for anybody learning Latto history must be the history of the meaning of the word mulatto. If that is not your starting place, you have no idea which people and events to actually study. The solution to this that many have employed is to selectively and retroactively apply a modern definition of Latto. I say selectively because Frederick Douglass was not Afropean, and yet he's heralded as an example of Latto greatness, and I say retrospectively because DNA tests did not exist in 1608 for you to know who fell within the 60-40 limit. And let's not pretend that we can predict genetic percentages merely by knowing the racial classification of the parents. To logically discern who was a Latto historically, we must study the history of the creators of the Latto identity, the Spanish and the Portuguese. Mulatto is an Iberian identity, and that cannot be dismissed. And if you think you can run away from any uncomfortable parts of Latto history by appealing to America and American history only, you're wrong. Many Lattos in America were not 60-40 Afropeans. The American view of a Latto was very broad, and that is something that we must all contend with. Dismissing the parts of Latto history that hurt our feelings will get us nowhere, and this is why I intend to explore this subject in depth. I'm currently building a timeline of the Latto identity and how its meaning has evolved over time. Once I'm done, I'll make it public along with videos analyzing the data. The hope is that this will spark a conversation for all of us to truly think about what it means to be a Latto.